Hey, what's up, everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here once again. It is that time of the month, time to talk about my favorite albums that were released this past month, January 2025. So we're kicking off this new year in style. It's been a great month, a great start to 2025 for new releases. And when I've done this in the past, if you're new to the channel or if you've been with me for a while, when I do these monthly videos, I used to always try to do about a top 20, give or take, just going through my favorite albums that I've listened to because I check out as much metal as I can every month. But this year, I'm switching it up a little bit. I'm going to try to limit these monthly lists to a top 15 so I can more focus on albums that are really standing out to me rather than including some that maybe I think are just decent, not necessarily things I'll go back to a ton. So that means you may not see some bigger name bands on here because they released some albums that maybe I thought were okay this month, not things I necessarily hated, but if I only think it's okay, I don't necessarily feel like I want to talk about it too long because it's just not something I may go back to that much. But as usual, I want to get your picks down below. Let me know which ones you think I should go check out in case I haven't heard them. I'm always looking to explore more music. That's my favorite thing about this channel is the mutual sharing of bands and albums. So enough rambling. Let's just get into this. Let's talk about my 15 favorite albums that came out in January. So kicking it off, I'm going with Ice War and the album Feel the Steel. So this is a one-man Canadian traditional heavy metal, speed metal band. This album is a ton of fun, as you can see from the album cover there. I mean, you kind of can tell just from looking at that what you're in store for. I will say the one drawback to this is the vocals. They're not exactly proficient, I guess you could say. I don't want to just shit all over them. I think it suits the music, but it does maybe hold it back from being as good as it can be. But all that being said, I really enjoy the energy and the vibe on this album. It's just a ton of fun. Maybe I won't return to it a ton because the vocals kind of hold it back a little bit. But if you're into like traditional heavy metal, speed metal, definitely go give this one a whirl because I'm sure it'll still put a smile on your face. It's just a good time. Up next, sticking in Canada, going with Revenge and the new album Violation.Strife.Abominate. So this is a blackened death metal band, war metal, however you want to categorize them. At this point in their career, you know exactly what you're getting. They don't really experiment too much from album to album. This is just pure pummeling hate and aggression, war metal through and through. So this album's not necessarily doing a whole lot different than what they've done before. I'm sure if you like or enjoy any of their previous albums, you're going to get quite a bit of enjoyment out of this one as well. I will say I've never been like a super fan of this band or even of the style in general. I enjoy it, but it's not necessarily something I go back to a ton. But anytime I do put on a Revenge album, I do still get some enjoyment out of it, and this one is no different. Definitely go check it out if you're into the style at all. Up next, going with Blackslash and the new album Heroes, Saints, and Fools. So this is some German traditional heavy metal. This would be for fans of really any of the big bands from like new wave of British heavy metal movement. Like there's influence here from Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, anything like that. You're going to kind of hear some spots here and there that are going to remind you of those bands. Maybe they're not really reinventing anything here or innovating the sound, but overall it's pretty well done. It's just a catchy album. They're executing their songwriting well. I don't particularly like the band name, Blackslash. It could have come up with a better name than that, but if that's my biggest detractor, that's okay. Overall, just a solid traditional heavy metal album that if you're into that, definitely go listen to this one. All right, up next, I'm kind of cheating here. I'm doing 5 albums in one because they're all from the same band that he released 5 albums this month, and that is Drowning the Light with his Conquer or Serve series. So it's Conquer or Serve 1 all the way up to 5. Basically released 5 albums in the span of like 2 weeks, which is a very like ambitious thing to do. This is a one-man black metal band from Australia. I've been going at it for a very long time. And conceptually, all these albums are tied together, but each one kind of has its own different theme and style. So although there's going to be similarities between them all, they each kind of have a unique flavor to them as well. I had to pick a favorite between the 5, I'd probably go with the first one. That's just the one I've listened to the most, but also there's some different experimentation going on and some different touches, which he's kind of throws some different stuff in on all 5 of these. But yeah, with releasing 5 albums in the span of 2 weeks, I haven't spent a ton of time with each of these 5 records. So maybe my favorite of the 5 will change over time. But if you're unfamiliar with Drowning the Light, go check out a lot of his past stuff as well. But you can spend a lot of time checking out these 5 new albums that just came out this month. So yeah, Drowning the Light is in 12th place. Up next, going with Onirophagus with the album Revelations from the Void. I might be mispronouncing that band name. I do not know how to say it. To me, that sounds like a dinosaur or something. Onirophagus, but I have no idea what it means. I don't know anything about that. I'm not an English major. It's probably something a lot cooler than what I'm saying. But nonetheless, getting off track, this is a Spanish death doom band. This album sees a lot of varied songwriting. Like, even when I say death doom, there's moments here that are like actually pretty fast for a death doom band that are almost more just straight ahead death metal. But then of course it does slow down and brings in that crushing doom atmosphere as well. Even throw in some violin in spots. There's just a lot of variation from song to song, which really keeps it engaging throughout its runtime. Just overall, a very well done album. Just missed out on my top 10, but it easily could have been in there, and maybe as I listen to it even more, it could rise. Now let's get into the top 10, my 10 favorite albums from January. Okay, so in 10th place, we're going back with some more Canadian content with Master Spy and their album Maze Runner. So this is some Canadian power metal, a genre that I don't think we have too much of up here in Canada, but every now and then a band pops up. This album is short and sweet. They definitely don't overstay their welcome. It's really got the vibe of like late 90s to early 2000s, like European power metal. So think bands like Stratovarius or Hammerfall, kind of in their early days. That's the vibe that this album has. So I will say it's not unique or original in any way, but goddamn, it's a lot of fun. It's just catchy songs, great riffs and solos, and pretty solid vocals. Overall, just a fun power metal album. Go check out Master Spy. It'll put a smile on your face. Up next, gonna switch to some death metal with Discordant Meditation and their debut album, Tragic Creature. So this band is from the USA. They get classified as experimental death metal, whatever that means. I mean, it's pretty much straight ahead death metal, but takes some twists and turns with some dissonance and the atmosphere that they bring in there. But overall, what stood out to me about this album is the amount of solid riffs that it contains. There's definitely some songs on here that stand out a lot more than others, maybe some that you could consider filler, but I feel like there's a lot of potential here for this band. This is their debut, so kind of just getting their feet wet, I guess you could say, but for a debut, I'm really digging it. There's a lot of solid riffs here, and they can build on this foundation going forward. Definitely worth checking out if you are unfamiliar with this band. Up next, in 8th, I'm going with Blood Red Fog and their album Marrasvaet. Probably mispronouncing that. This is some Finnish black metal. This is very long and expansive songs. It's only 4 tracks at about 50 minutes. The longest song being like 23 minutes long. So it just takes you on these winding, epic journeys. And definitely not afraid to experiment with some different things as well as the album progresses. This is a new band to me. This is the first album I've heard by them. It was actually recommended to me by one of my friends on Instagram. And yeah, based on this album alone, I definitely need to go check out their past discography as well, their past releases, because I have not heard them at all. But if this is a sign of what their past albums are like, then I'm sure I'm going to enjoy those as well, because overall, this is just a very solid black metal album. Go check out Blood Red Fog if you have not heard them. Up next, going with Queen of Dreams and the album Subnivium. This is another band that's new to me. This is some USA progressive power metal, female fronted. She's got a very powerful, great voice. The one thing I will say that's maybe a negative is that her voice is kind of buried in the mix on this album. I wish the production was a little bit cleaner. It kind of holds it back, but there's huge potential here. The thing that drew me to this band is the clear Malazan Book of the Fallen reference in their band name. And then looking at the song titles, it looks like they kind of run the gamut on fantasy books, whether it is like the Stormlight Archive or Malazan or Lord of the Rings. They're kind of just plucking songs and lyrical ideas from different fantasy series, which is right up my alley. I love that kind of stuff. And overall, like, the musicianship here is really on point. It's really great power metal. Like I said, my only knock is the production kind of holds it back from being as good as it could be, but I feel like this band really has something here, and maybe they can build on it going forward. But if you're into progressive power metal, yeah, go check out Queen of Dreams. All right, up next in 6th, I'm going with Sarcator. I don't know their actual pronunciation. It's a mix of Sarcophago and Creator. Those are their two biggest influences. They combine the names together to make their band name, which is kind of odd, but nonetheless, their new album, Swarming Angels and Flies. This is some Swedish black thrash. As I said, they're named after Sarcophago and Creator, so kind of combine the sounds of those two bands together, and that's what you have here. These are just some young dudes that have a ton of youthful energy, and you can feel the passion through the music. This is just really well done. They've just unleashed a killer album here. It's got some absolute standout songs, kind of similar to what I said about a couple albums ago. Maybe there's a couple songs that are kind of filler that aren't quite on par with the rest. I wouldn't say front to back this is an amazing album, but there's a lot of really great, amazing songs contained within here, and overall it's still very solid. It's just missing out on my top 5, but honestly, if you're into black thrash, this is a pretty good album, especially for the month of January, starting the year off right. Go give them a listen. It's pretty solid stuff. All right, now we're into the best of the best. My top 5, this is where it kind of goes up a notch from everything else that I just talked about. These next 5 are really solid albums, in my opinion, at least. So in 5th place, I'm going with the Great Old Ones and the new album, Kadath. So this is some French atmospheric post-black metal. It's all Lovecraftian themed, so they really build this atmosphere so well. That's what their albums are really known for, and this one's no exception. They just really suck you into this like dreamlike state with their atmosphere, based all around Lovecraftian concepts. And like, I'm having a hard time describing this because you have to kind of just go listen to it. Described as post-black metal, but there's moments that, yes, have that post element, but then there's like raging black metal moments as well, and it just goes so many different ways and different places. There's long drawn-out songs here. There is like a 15-minute instrumental, which is a good instrumental, but there's like 2 instrumentals in a row. That's the one thing. Maybe the flow of the album could be a little bit better, but overall, this is a solid offering from start to finish. It just really grabs your attention and sucks you in. And that's why I have it in my top 5. Just a solid release. Goddamn great album. Up next in 4th, I'm going with something that maybe isn't really even considered metal, but I feel like atmospherically it fits in enough. And that's Wardruna with their new album, Birna. If you're unfamiliar with this project, they are from Norway. They play like Viking folk music, Viking ambient music. And this is the kind of music that you just feel in your soul. It's not just listening to it, but it like brings out this like primal feeling. It awakens something within you that maybe has been lying dormant. It's just that kind of music that it just gives you the feels. It awakens your soul. It's so unique. There's not really any other bands out there like this. And it's just so well put together. They draw you in with all these different folk instruments, and it just transports you back to Viking era times, and you just want to be drinking out of a horn and living in nature, closing your eyes and gazing under the stars. Like, it is goddamn perfect at capturing this atmosphere. I'm not a huge like folk ambient guy. Sometimes there's certain projects that I may gravitate towards, and this is definitely one of them. I enjoy every album they have put out, and yeah, they're just truly something special. Goddamn great album. Up next in 3rd, I'm going with Hesperia and the new album Frali Monti Sibillini Black Medieval Winter over the Sibylline Mounts. So a very long title there and a very long album. This is a one-man atmospheric folky black metal project from Italy. It's an 80-minute album, so that might turn some people off right away. It's filled with a ton of folky interludes interspersed in between the longer black metal songs, and even the longer black metal songs may have some moments where it kind of breaks off into a folky interlude within the song as well, so it's kind of all over the place with it being a little bit overlong. But when this goes black metal, it goes fucking hard. Like, the riffs here remind me of early Satyricon. It's got that same vibe, just great black metal riffs. And even when I say that, add in some extra folky touches and extra atmospheric to a band like early Satyricon. And this is what you get, the end result here. Like, overall, yeah, it might be a challenging listen because it's 80 minutes long. But honestly, I've listened to this album a bunch, and it doesn't really drag on that much. You could argue that some spots could be trimmed, but honestly, this is an exceptionally done album, in my opinion. It's full of riffs that I absolutely love, and I just love this album. That's why I have it in third place. Speaking of black metal albums that I have fallen in love with this month, up next in second, I'm going with Häxkapell and their album Jordens, Blod, urgravens, grepp. Doing my best, probably butchering that, but yeah, this is a one-man folky black metal project from Sweden. This reminds me, it's got like folky melodies that remind me of a band like Windir, but then it brings in some like melodic black metal of a band like Vinterland, and then throw in some clean singing and different experimentation going on from song to song as well. And it just really all comes together in a triumphant fashion. This is just an epic folky black metal experience, and I goddamn love it. I can't stop listening to this album. The opening track, Sarcator, fucking great. The opening riff and melody, it's just buried in my head. Like, that's an earworm if I've ever heard one. But it's not just about the opening track. This whole album is amazing. Goddamn love it. Almost put it number one, but it's number two for today. And that just leaves one, my favorite album of the month, which if you have followed this channel for at least a couple years, I'm sure this is not going to be any surprise. I was very highly pumped on hearing that this album was coming out, and it did not disappoint, and that is Century with their sophomore album, Sign of the Storm. So this is some Swedish classic heavy metal for fans of bands like Heavy Load or Gotham City. It's got that early 80s feel, even bringing in some like 70s hard rock elements as well. Their debut album from 2023, The Conquest of Time, I actually put that as my number one favorite album of 2023 over any other album from any other genre. That's literally how much I think of this band and of that album. It's just goddamn amazing. So then hearing this one, it's like, could they strike gold again? Could they catch lightning in a bottle a second time? And the short answer, yes, they can. It is absolutely full of catchy riffs and hooks and choruses that I want to pump my fist to and sing along to. The production here is smooth as butter. It's just so easy listening. It goes down so easily. It's just a pure joy to listen to this music and to listen to this album. If you were going to complain about some things, I could see you saying it's not really changing that much from the debut in terms of style, but you don't need to fix something that's not broken. They've narrowed down their style. They found their niche sound, and that's what they're going to keep doing. And I got no problem with that when the albums are this good. The songwriting is this good, and it's full of this many riffs. If I'm going to compare it to their debut, maybe the debut hit a little bit harder because I didn't really know what to expect fully other than hearing a couple songs in advance. But here I kind of went into it with super high expectations, and yes, it fully delivered. But comparing it to the debut, maybe this is a notch below, but we'll see in time. I mean, I've only been listening to it a few weeks, so that's a very hard thing to even talk about. But honestly, even if it's not quite on par with the debut, it's like a smidge below. It's a goddamn great album. I love it. Easy choice for my number one. So anyways, those are just my thoughts and opinions as usual. My picks for the month of January. Let me know yours down below. Let me know which albums I need to go check out that maybe I didn't mention here. And until next time, Hammerheart Metal Reviews out.